Hello, welcome to the Craft House Magic YouTube channel. My name's Ellie and today I'm going to sew a bucket hat from a free pattern, and it's from a website called HeatherHandmade.com. So it's a free pattern. The way you can get it is basically you're signing up to their newsletter to get the free pattern. I'm going to sew it with my latest collection of Lace and Bee Quilters cottons from Liberty. I'll pop a picture up there of what they look like all together. But I've actually cut a couple of 1-inch strips from my set that I used in the bowl tutorial that I did a couple of weeks ago. So I'm just trying to give you ideas of what to make with the sets that I'm putting in the shop this year. So I used a couple of 1-inch strips from each of the fabrics to make this, and I'll leave a link to the video tutorial in the description bar down below, and it's basically a rope bowl that I've wrapped in some of the pretty fabrics. So today I'm going to use those 5 fat quarters to make this hat. The pattern instructions say to basically have a metre for the outside fabric, and you're using the same fabric for all the outside and just underneath. They say you need ½ a metre and then a fat quarter for the sort of lining and the flat top in the inside. But because I'm going to use all of the fabrics, I'm going to use a bit of a mixture of them all. So I've already printed the pattern out. It looks like this, and then you stick various sheets of paper together to make the pattern pieces. You can see how this has come out on my printer. I selected 100% on my printer, and I did check the size was correct on this little inch box here, which came out really nicely. I don't know whether it's just my printer, but it's made it go right to the edge, so I think I'm losing a bit of the actual print there, but I've managed to stick it together and I think it's going to work out okay. So these are my 5 fabrics. I've actually pre-washed these and got them ready, give them a press, ready to cut out. So these are the pattern pieces. If you look carefully, you can see that I've left a little gap. I've just used magic tape to tape these together. You can see there's a little gap between the 2 pieces. It's because this little square here didn't look right unless I had it a little bit of a gap in the middle, and you can see that it wouldn't have made a circle properly. So I've managed to sort of eyeball it into place, but it could just be that my printer printed it not quite too close to the edge, so we'll see how that goes. It looks like it's a circle, so I've done the same with the rest of the pattern pieces. So I have already, as well as cut the pattern pieces out, I've cut myself out some interfacing. Now I'm going to use woven interfacing because I hate the sort of fibrous stuff which isn't proper cotton. So this is a cotton medium weight woven interfacing, and I've cut out 1 top of the hat, 2 of these panels that form the brim, 2 of the side panels for the hat as well. So I've cut those ready. I'm going to work out now what I'm going to do with each of these fabrics in terms of where I'm going to place them. So I've decided to use this fabric for the top of the hat, which is this piece. So I'm going to use that for the top of the hat and also the top side of the brim. So I'm going to cut out 2 brim pieces and a circular bit. I've already placed it onto here to see if it'll fit. Now this is a directional print, but I don't think it's that obvious that it's directional, so I'm going to be doing it this way. I'll place 1 there and 1 next to it. I have made sure that it does fit. If you had a full fat quarter, I reckon it would fit that way and you could do it in the direction that it should be, but because I've already used a couple of inch strips, I'm going to do mine this way with the circle bit in the middle. So that's the top brim and the top of the hat. I'm going to cut in this fabric. And I've decided that I'm going to cut, oh, this is the fabric that I'm going to use for the inside. So this darker one I thought would be ideal for doing the lining of the inside of the hat. So I'll need 2 pieces of the sort of side panel in that fabric to go inside, and then 1 piece of the circular inside at the top of the hat for the inside. And I think that if makeup goes on the hat, it won't show so much if I use this very busy, quite dark fabric. So that's what I'm going to cut out of that one. And then I've got this green fabric I thought I'd do for the underside of the brim. So I'll be cutting 2 pieces of the brim in this green to go on the underside of it. And then what I'm going to do is I've got these 2 fabrics left, and I'm going to see if I can combine these to sort of piece them to make these side panels for the hat. So when I said I'd cut, so this is the first one I said to you about. This is sort of my favourite one. I'm going to do that for the top brim and the very top of the hat, and then I'm going to piece the side panels because I haven't got enough to do the whole hat in this fabric. I'm going to piece the side panels. Not sure whether I'm going to do just these 2 fabrics, or I might see if I can get some of the green to go with that as well. Once I've cut out the underside of the brim for that one, I can see how much fabric I've got left, so I'll see how I get on with that. I'm going to start cutting out my favourite fabric first. I think what I'm going to do is cheat a bit and fold this over, and I can then cut the 2 pieces at once. But I'm going to try and save fabric, although I'm only going to have a little strip left anyway, but you know. And put some weights on it. I use washers as pattern weights. I've got some square ones and some circle ones. I can put that in place. Obviously this doesn't need to be cut on the fold, but I don't want to waste too much fabric, so I want to keep them quite close together. What I'm going to do is cut this piece out first, and then with the bit in the middle left over I can cut the circle out without sort of folding it over and messing around. So I tend to use an 18-inch rotary cutter to cut out sort of dressmaking patterns and things, because the smaller circumference of the circle just makes it easier to cut things out. So I'm going to cut that as close to the fabric piece, as close to the pattern piece as I can. Right, there we go. That's those 2 pieces cut out. And I can cut the circle out of the centre, so you can sort of see that's going to be the top brim of the hat. I've got this circle left from the centre, and I should be able to use that just nicely in the middle there to cut out the top of the hat. There we go, it's not too much waste. So I'm going to cut out all the other pieces, and then I'll come back to you when I start ironing the interfacing onto some of these pieces. So this pattern comes in various sizes. It goes from a baby right up to an adult large or extra large. I'm cutting out the adult medium according to my size. I've left myself an inch of positive ease so that I've got a little bit of leeway in there just to make it a bit more comfortable. So hopefully that should be okay. If this pattern works out, I can use the toddler version to make one for Jensen and one for Adam as well. So I've normally got quite a large head, but I'm still only an adult medium, so we'll see how well it fits. So I've just decided to sort of just go for it. I've cut some 2-inch strips, and actually these are a little bit narrow because I didn't have much left of it, very wide. So what I'm going to do is sort of do this sort of pattern where I'm trying to repeat on both sides like this. I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance and stitch and flip these, starting from sort of the middle, I think, and then once I've done that, I'll cut it to the shape of the actual interfacing. So this is the interfacing I've cut to size for the side panels of the hat, and I've got, if I do that twice and I join it at the sides, that should make the outside sides of the hat with this fabric as the brim. I think that should be quite pretty. Right, so because there's 8 pieces across here, what I'm going to do is do a 1/4 inch seam on these two, press that out, and then start doing the stitch and flip from this centre piece. So stitch and flip, and the next one stitch and flip, etc. So if it's not long enough, then I can add a few more strips either side. I've changed my mind. What I am going to do is, because it could cause issues with the sticky side sort of partially ironing it onto the fabric, what I'm going to do is just sew the strips on next to each other, just so that I know that it'll cover this, so that it's all lined up so that I've got it completely covered, and then I can press it onto it and then cut around it to fit. There we go. So I've just joined a load of mostly 2-inch strips to form the side of the actual hat. What I've tried to do is actually put the seam allowances towards the sort of centre of the panel. I'm not sure whether that will make any difference, to be honest, but now I can press both of these panels onto the sides of the hat, and I'm going to try and sort of keep them central, like lined up to the middle portion. Obviously, because it curls up at the side, it won't be exactly, but just make sure it's sort of as straight to the middle section as possible. Give that a press onto there, and then I can cut around it. Give that a press onto the interface, and hopefully this will work. Obviously I could have made sure that I'd got a pattern piece that was exactly a wedge of the actual piece. I could have worked out the wedge sizes for this so that the angle was exactly right when it's joined up at the side seams, but I don't think it's worth the time. I've got both of those panels stuck to the interfacing, and I can cut out the interfacing now and interface the other panels. So, I've realised I've run out of interfacing. So what are we going to go fetch?
Yarn!
Yarn! We're going to get some interfacing. Look, I've got a little sample of the one I've got. I thought I'd cut out enough for the rim, but I've only cut enough for 2 pieces. I'm supposed to cut 4, so I'm going to go see if we've got any interfacing at the local fabric shop, haven't we?
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll be able to get some the same as this. Will you be able to find it for me, Jensen?
Yes!
Thank you.
Can I have 2 sugars in mine? That's it. And some milk. Thank you.
Got it? Let's get home and get on with it. I'm back from the sewing shop. I'll just do the crinkling and get it out. Right, I have some interfacing. This is woven interfacing, cotton woven interfacing, but it's not quite as heavy as the other lot that I used for the rest of the hat, but I think it'll be okay. But I think that little bit of extra interfacing will just finish it off nicely. So I've just got to cut the inside or underneath bits that go around the hat out of those 2 pieces. Because I'm using the lighter weight for all the same piece, so the back and the front, it'll be all even, so I don't need to worry about it being uneven with it being a different weight of interfacing. But Just need to go and cut that out, iron those on, and then we can get assembling. Right, I've got my pieces all laid out now. So this is going to be the top of the brim. This is the side of the outside of the hat and the top of the hat, and then we've got the lining pieces for the top of the hat, the sides, and then the underside of the brim. These pieces have been interfaced with the thinner interfacing, and then I've interfaced all these pieces with the medium weight interfacing, so it is ready to sew now. There is a tutorial on the website where the patterns come from, so it's heatherhandmade.com, but there is a video tutorial she's got on the video on her YouTube channel as well, so she goes into a little bit more depth than I probably would, but I'm just showing you how I'm doing it with my sort of fat quarter bundle. So I'm going to start sewing these panels together and these panels together for the walls, and then I'm going to attach them to the top bits. Right, I've put right sides together for the side panels, for the lining, and the outer ones that have been interfaced. So I'm going to sew down the short edges either side of here on both of those. So it's 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, so it's just under a centimetre, so I'm just going to go for a centimetre, to be honest. So I'm just going to stitch 1/8 of an inch from the seam just to hold the seams in place. Just makes it a bit stronger as well. So the tutorial actually says that she doesn't top stitch the lining fabric, but I feel like I need to do it as well. I don't think it's going to hurt. So I'm now going to pin the top of the hat in the narrowest edge, where the sides of the hat are sewn together, so that's going to be a bit fiddly. I have snipped some notches where where it's supposed to meet up with the side seams, so I'm matching those up. I'm finding the actual top of the headpiece feels a little bit small compared to the outside, so I've been trying to sort of stretch the seam allowance to the crown and try not to stretch the other bit, so I can see if I can get it to fit. Hopefully I can. I'll have to take these pins out and readjust it a little bit. I've checked the pattern pieces and I've definitely cut out the right size. It's whether it's all due to the alignment of the pattern pieces when I've stuck them together. We shall see. I might be able to get it to fit though. Right, I've managed to get it in. Hopefully it won't bunch up when I'm actually coming to stitch around the outside, so I'm going to give that a go before I start on the other piece. I might have to take some of the width off from this band as well, we shall see. Hopefully I can get it to fit. So I've managed to get it in without puckers, which is good, but it is a little bit fiddly getting the top part in. But I'm going to have a go at doing the sort of outer panel rather than the lining as well. It is a lot tighter on this side because I haven't got the give in the fabric because it's got the interfacing on. So I think I'm just going to unpin this and just make the sides a little bit narrower. Hopefully the lining will still fit inside if I cut this down slightly. Because this centrepiece is interfaced, it does mean that it doesn't stretch out very much, so I am going to take off a little bit off the edges on the outer panel just to make it fit. I'm going to basically just cut it along the top stitch line on either side and stitch it again with a 1/4 inch seam, and top stitch again. So I'm going to take that off. And again, just like I did before, I'm going to press the seams open and top stitch 1/8 of an inch either side before I get to the next step. I've managed to get it in. It still was a bit of a struggle, but it is all in there. I need to press the seams to the inside and do like a top stitch. I'm probably going to have to amend the seam allowances on the outer panels as well, because it seems like it's way too big. It might be because I've done something wrong when I've been assembling the pattern pieces though, so we'll have to see. I'm going to give that a press to neaten all these edges up and make sure that the seam is pressed into the centre and that I can top stitch that then. Well, I've got a tailor's ham to put on the inside so I can try and press it as neat as possible. I'm finding this a little bit fiddlier than I thought I would actually. I think I should have probably clipped this before I started ironing it, because I think it'll come out a bit neater, so I'm going to quickly go in and clip. There we are, hopefully that should make it a bit easier. I completely forgot to do that. I'm going to work my way all the way around and get this all neatened up. Right, I think I'm going to get my little iron so that I can put it inside and make sure it's all sort of pressed from the inside as well. Right, so I think I've got that ironed in. I'm going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch from the edge now. So I've been pressing this quite a lot to try and get a neat finish and top stitched 1/8 of an inch from the outside. I've also pressed the lining and stitched 1/8 of an inch there just to make it a little bit neater. The original video said you didn't have to do that, but I just felt like I wanted to sort of get everything contained and put together. So because I trimmed a bit off the this part of the hat on the edge, what I've done is I've just taken 1/4 of an inch off either side to make it a little bit easier, because this doesn't stretch because it's got the thick interfacing on. So now I'm going to sew 3/8 of an inch, or roughly a centimetre, down here, here, here and here, which is the lower side of the brim and the upper side of the brim. So I'm giving the seams a press so that they're open, and I'm going to top stitch these 1/8 of an inch from the edge. There we go, that's one side done. Top stitching. I'm going to do the same to the other side and to the other piece as well. Right, I've got the two brims ready. I'm going to line up the seams at the side. I'm going to pin all the way around the outside and stitch that 3/8 of an inch, which is about a centimetre. Right, I've stitched around the outside. The pattern suggests that you use pinking shears for the outside, but I've got a rotary cutter which is like zigzag, which is handy. So I'm going to rotary cut just on the outside of the stitches, so then that reduces the bulk for when I turn it the other way around. I'm now going to turn it the other way around and give it a press. I'm just using a tool to try and poke it out as smoothly as possible, this seam, before I press it. Right, I'm going to give that a press, and then I can top stitch around this edge of the hat, 1/8 of an inch, just to hold it all in place. What I'm doing here actually is, if I press it from the underside, I'm just pulling the fabric so it doesn't show on the top side of the brim as I'm pressing it. Hopefully it'll work. This is the first hat I've actually made, so that's exciting. Once I've got the hang of it, I might make quite a few more. There we go, that's all pressed. I'm now going to do some top stitching, 1/8 of an inch all the way round. So I've just been top stitching multiple rounds on the hat. I've been doing it about 1 centimetre between, and using my sewing machine foot to sort of measure the gaps. I'm not quite sure whether you can see them, but I'm going to do them right until the end, to give it a little bit more sturdiness, and to actually, I think it looks quite nice as well. You see quite a lot of bucket hats with this sort of stitching on, so I'm going to carry on doing that right until the middle. So I've done the sort of quilting on the brim, and I need to join the top of the hat to the actual brim now. So I'm going to pin these two edges together. I'll probably pin it from the other side, to be honest, like so. I'm just lining up the side seams first, and hopefully this will now fit.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals, they take us higher. The night's young, it has just begun.
Right, we're all pinned in. I'm going to stitch around that on the machine with the same seam allowance, 3/8 of an inch, or about 1 centimetre.
She puts her hand in mine. We wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop, as we shout from the top. We're gonna be two hearts running wild.
Right, now I'm going to clip the seam allowance all the way around. Right, so I'm just going to do a 5/8 of an inch stitch line on the lining on its own, so that I can use that line to fold it in and then pin that to the inside of the hat. Right, I'm popping the lining into the main body of the hat, and I'm just going to turn the lining over where the stitch line is, and I'm going to start pinning that around, but I'm going to match the side seams as well. So I've pinned it all in. It looks like it's going to be okay and nice and smooth. So I'm going to sew it from the outside and do an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance from this join line here. Let's see if I can do it on the machine. We shall see how that goes though. Wish me luck. So I'm checking underneath just to make sure the seam is there and flat, and then stitching a bit. So this will probably take a bit longer than a normal stitch line. Hopefully it'll be okay, and hopefully it'll catch that seam underneath. Hooray, it's caught all the way around. I'm really pleased about that. So like I said before, I did it in a darker colouring in case I do get makeup on it, it won't show so much. And I just thought it'd be nice to have the lighter fabric underneath and then the pinks on top with the stripy. It does look a little bit crazy having it pieced on the top, but it'd be great for using in the garden. Let's try it on. So let's see what it looks like on. Hello. Does look a little bit silly on me because I don't really suit hats, but it's going to keep the sun off my face, so definitely a good thing to have to keep the sun off my face. So hope you enjoyed the little vlog, and I'll be back next week with a podcast. What I should say is, before I go, is that I think the size is a little bit bigger than they anticipate in the size chart. So I would probably, I sized up an inch up to make sure that I'd be big enough, but I do feel that it's quite large, even though I took a little bit of the size off the brim and things. So I would recommend going down if you're going to use this pattern. But you can use fat quarters for any sort of bucket style pattern, and there's loads of free patterns out there. So have a go and see what yours comes out like. Maybe don't make one so large as mine, because I think the brim is a little bit big. But it will keep the sun off my face in the summer. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I shall see you on next week's video, because it's a podcast next week. So bye.